Welcome to the Synergetic Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Bieber, and our mission is simple: to help young professionals maximize their influence and impact. Let's jump into today's episode. Well, welcome back to Synergetic Culture. I'm your host, Adam Bieber, and we are excited to be back in the studio with our incredible sponsor, the O Agency, bringing you another amazing interview and episode of the Synergetic Culture Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jacqueline Jensen, a professional EOS implementer, and we're going to have an interesting conversation about your journey through leadership and what led you to become an EOS implementer. And so, Jacqueline, I'm excited to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here today with you, Adam.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
I love the community connection that we have.
Yes.
And so if you remember, for the listeners, remember Don Marone's episode, we referenced the Chamber of Commerce that we're a part of and the community that we're a part of. And so that's part of our story, is just the fact that we are part of the same greater community up in this greater North Metro area of Atlanta, and a part of the same Chamber of Commerce, and through that have connected and started to learn more about what you do and what your organization does, been able to share what we do at the Synergetic Culture Company, and just encourage and help and inspire each other. And so, one, I'm just grateful for your friendship and grateful that you're here.
Same.
Awesome.
I couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to talk about EOS. And so for those that do not know what EOS is, would you just give us a quick high-level 30,000-foot overview of EOS, the definition and what it is?
Yeah. So EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Okay.
And it is just a simple, real-world, practical, and proven operating system. And it helps business owners and their leadership teams organize all the moving parts of business. Right? There's so many.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs have 137 things running around in their head at any given time. So EOS helps those business owners simplify those 137 issues or challenges or opportunities into 6 key components.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what we're going to dive into is your personal story of how you came across EOS, because before being an EOS implementer, you were part of a family business. You were the general manager of a luxury high-end golf course and country club, and you had over 100 employees in your mid-20s that reported to you or through you. And so you have this real-world, tangible experience. So let's kind of rewind the clock a little bit and go back to really what led you to the world of EOS.
Yeah. I'll rewind the clock a little
Go ahead.
further.
Yeah, please.
Give a little background and context. And so I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My stepfather has been an entrepreneur his entire life, so our dinner conversations generally revolved around business goals.
Wow.
Not so much maybe the vacation we were going to take or what we were going to do for fun that weekend. Somehow I still found business to be fun, like a puzzle,
Sure.
This challenge that was just really interesting to try and piece together. I went to school at Florida Gulf Coast University down in Fort Myers. Got a business degree with a concentration in sports and landed in sport tourism.
Cool.
Absolutely loved it. I also, along the way, promised myself I would never work for the family business.
Mm-hmm.
Family businesses have a lot of dynamics.
Sure.
So while I loved the idea of business, I never wanted to work in the family business. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I landed in the family business. Yeah. There's a piece of meeting others' expectations of me. Along the way, kind of this obligation along the way that ultimately led me to join the family business. And at the time, that was in a different industry. And then in 2010, we transitioned into looking at private country clubs as an opportunity in the marketplace.
Wow.
After the 2008 crash, market was still very much in the downturn. It was not great for golf. So a fair amount of clubs went under during that time.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we landed at a local country club here in the area. So I was able to stay back here in Atlanta, North Metro area where I grew up. And at 24, was kind of dropped off at the swim center in March of 2011 and told, I heard you have a swim team. This furniture won't work. Tell me what you need.
Wow.
And that's kind of how my journey within the family business, specifically the hospitality side of family business, started. And it continued that way for a long time,
Yeah.
for many years of just regularly being put in positions that I wasn't qualified for, certainly didn't have the skills for, and wasn't sure how to navigate.
In
Um,
some cases, voluntold, maybe.
100%.
But then also just given an opportunity is another way to look at it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like in what other environment would I have been given the opportunity to take on this challenge and to gain the experience that I was given?
Mm,
I wouldn't have had that in any other environment. So I'm
sure.
incredibly thankful. Um, in that moment, I am a person who turns to books or podcasts or,
Hmm.
I'm facing all of these challenges. How do I keep my team motivated and aligned? How do I keep the members happy? How do I beat last year's numbers? Those were
Sure.
regular goals.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I turned to these books and I started cherry picking. I'm like, okay, I heard this management's lesson or principle, or I just read about this leadership principle. And so let me implement that into the business. And that felt very chaotic to the staff, right?
Mm.
Because you're like, let me do this, let me do that, let me cherry pick this idea. And ultimately, in 2019, I came across the book Traction,
Yeah.
which is the book about EOS.
Yep.
And it was as if all of those business and leadership and management principles were
Wow.
tied together in one pretty little bow, one operating system,
Hmm.
one business framework. And I ultimately made the decision to self implement that EOS, the
Okay.
Entrepreneurial Operating System,
Yep.
into our business, and it stuck. My leadership team, it was this giant aha moment. Everyone felt empowered and aligned and excited about where we were going. And ultimately, we had some really great results.
Yeah.
So we might touch on those later.
Yeah. So, tell me, just because you just mentioned it, why is it significant that you self-implemented? What would be the other option of implementation?
Yeah. So entrepreneurs, business owners, leadership teams can come to EOS through, books like Traction.
Yep.
And we are very much a help first community. So there are a lot of free resources out there
Yeah.
for business
Yeah.
owners.
Absolutely.
And so some business owners choose to self implement. Others choose to hire an implementer like myself
Got it.
to come in and help guide them through their EOS journey.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Awesome. Which I understood just for you being an implementer, but I wanted to make sure the audience understood
Yeah,
too
thank you.
that self implementation can have positives, but it can also have negatives. So let's jump into like what were the biggest wins for you in the implementation journey at the country club that you
Yeah.
were overseeing?
So the first I love, and I'm really passionate about this one. For us, it was such a cultural shift within
Yeah.
our organization.
Yeah.
And it went from, companies, every company has a culture. Some are accidental,
Yeah.
some are more intentional,
Yeah.
and some just get lucky
Yep. Yep.
along the way. And so for us, we had this kind of regular turnover and challenge with culture.
Mm.
Because in hospitality and in the country club world, there's a fair amount of frontline staff.
Yeah.
So your hourly staff, and a lot
Yeah.
of those positions are seasonal or maybe part-time, or it's
Mm-hmm.
a second job, or it's a stepping stone job
Mm-hmm.
for
A lot of
individuals.
times younger too, right?
Yes,
Like high school students or home for summer college students, things like that. Yeah.
exactly. And it's so easy for that position to just be forgotten about by leaders. And so then those individuals show up to work, they clock in, they smile, they'll do what they were told to do, but probably nothing more,
Yeah.
and they're going to clock out and leave. And so by implementing EOS, we took this very intentional approach at how we were treating our frontline and hourly employees
Wow.
and how we were investing in them, recognizing that they might be with us for a short period of time,
Mm-hmm.
but knowing that how important it was to provide them skills that would serve them later in their careers.
Sure.
And with the hope that if this was a summer job for them, they'll come back next summer.
Yeah.
Because how
Absolutely.
beneficial is that for organizations and owners when you're not retraining,
Mm-hmm.
20, 30, 50 staff every year?
So you guys had to develop a set of core values that helped you to practice that. How do we treat each other
Yes.
internally, and especially toward the the many frontline hourly workers that were executing a lot of what makes a luxury country club run, a lot of what makes a lot of businesses run.
Hmm.
And so what was that development of core values like for you guys at that time?
Yeah, we went through an exercise, which is an exercise that a professional EOS implementer will take
Okay.
any client through, is to truly discover a company's core values. And core
Mm.
values being a set of guiding principles that ultimately get you the culture you're desiring
Yeah.
within your organization. And you don't want core values to be aspirational necessarily. They do need to be a part of who you are as a
Mhm.
company. And you don't want them to be accidental because staff can determine some interesting core
Sure,
values
sure,
if
sure.
left
Yeah.
to their own devices. And so, how do we, and you don't want them to be kind of that permission to play, which is just your generic, like, of course, we all want people to have integrity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but how do
Vision,
we,
trust, integrity, like the script words on the wall. But it's like,
exactly.
what does that even mean for us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And how do you create that clarity
Yeah.
for your whole staff from leadership team through your frontline employees? And so we take, as EOS implementers, we take business owners and leadership teams through an exercise to help discover what they truly, what core values truly exist within their organization,
Yeah.
and then how to define them. So tell a story about
Mm.
them that help those core values resonate with every individual within the organization,
Sure.
um,
Sure.
in a clear and similar way. If you just say, "Oh, have integrity," you're like, "Cool,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
um,
How in this job,
right.
in this
Right.
organization.
So
Yeah.
how do we clearly define it so everyone sees that same picture
Yeah.
of what integrity means, if
Hmm.
we're going to use that as an example, right? And as a GM as a general manager at the club I was at, I took new hires through an onboarding process
Mm.
and really helped ingrain those core values, make them come to life. And at the end of the day, how an individual acts in their personal life is theirs, right? But as they were coming on to the club property, this is who we are
Mm.
here.
Yeah. This is our DNA.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
if you're going to be part of our family, this is how we act
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
This is what we do.
Yeah.
This is how we serve. And all of a sudden, there was this transformation
Yeah.
within our entire staff. One of our core values tied back to leadership and being a servant leader.
Mm.
And as I shared what it means, we are servant leaders. What does that mean to us?
Hmm.
All of a sudden, I could see that aha moment for so many employees that they saw themselves as a leader.
Yeah.
And that maybe was the first time in their life they saw themselves
Sure.
as a
Sure.
leader.
They're like, no, this is just my hourly job. I applied online and, I'm just here to get a paycheck.
Hmm.
All of a sudden, there's a perspective shift. And
Hmm.
now there's a different sense of ownership and responsibility
Hmm.
and the part they play in leading the organization.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You mentioned something in a meeting we had, and I wrote it down, and you've said the word now a couple times. You said clarity is kind.
Yeah.
Clarity is a form of kindness. And so the other thing you just touched on was how important an onboarding process is for a new employee. That's your opportunity to really set the foundation for what's expected. I heard someone say unspoken expectations are predetermined resentments.
Hmm.
And so if you don't actually articulate what the expectation is or what the culture looks like or what the DNA is, then how in the world can you expect that people are just going to inherently pick it up?
Mm.
You actually have to have language around it. And sometimes people have like, no, we just have a good vibe here. Like this is working. But they don't know how to actually articulate what it is that they do. So I love that even if they have a great organization and a great environment to work in, you can still help bring clarity to what are the values that drive that,
Hmm.
so that when new people come in, you can actually communicate that, and really focus in. And then for others, maybe it's they have a set of core values, but it's been just kind of the vague, we ordered a cursive writing and stuck it on the wall, and that's what our core values are. you can help people iterate and transform that so there's more clarity,
Mm-hmm.
which in turn is kind to their teams,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah. I think we've said it both ways, right? It's like to be clear is to be kind, or to be unclear is to be unkind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you create that clarity in expectation and how they're showing up every day?
Yeah.
And if that isn't communicated, to your point, you just said it, if that isn't communicated on the front end, they'll start to develop their own way or their own ideas.
Sure.
And now there's an untraining process that
Mm-hmm.
has to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's much harder to do after you've established a
yes.
bad habit. It's so much harder to break the habit than it is to create one. That's just normal, natural human behavior. And it's the same in a work environment where there's a lack of clarity.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
these are all positives. You also mentioned profit margins and just the growth that you guys experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Employee retention.
Yes.
A lot of times in different industries where you do have a component of hourly labor, that can also come with higher retention. But that's not even also the main. There are salaried companies that have a retention problem. The culture has shifted in the workplace where tenure has less value in some aspects. It is valuable, but some people don't see that as the most important thing. Well, you've been someplace for 5 years, so clearly you're a dedicated hard worker. Nope. Sometimes people pop around for, an 18-month stints just to climb the corporate ladder, and that's also seen as an competitive advantage. So, talk about just what you experienced specifically to the Luxury Country Club, the retention, and then just the growth and profit margins and that type of benefit that you guys saw.
Yeah, absolutely. We, taking that intentional approach at building the culture we desire to best serve our members
Yeah.
and each other
Mm-hmm.
as coworkers, led to a drastically reduced turnover rate.
Yeah.
And it also was this, I'll tie back, let's circle back to kind of vision, traction, and healthy. But by creating this clear vision
Yep.
with core values, with the help of core values, management, mid-management, and frontline employees could see exactly how their contribution, what they were doing every day, was impacting this bigger goal.
Yeah.
And the importance, the significance of their role within our company.
Absolutely.
So that drastically reduced turnover for us.
Yeah.
And then all of these things helped with, we more than doubled profits the
Yeah.
last 3 years I was there.
Yeah. I mean, if you're happier showing up to work, you're probably going to be a lot happier in the way that you sell equipment and memberships and golf balls and all the things that happen at a country club. That investment into the individuals actually plays itself out in the way that they approach the sales motion and the customer retention motion and the customer care motion. All of that is impacted directly
Yes.
by this.
Yes. And everyone could see, each individual could see, again, how they contributed to different parts of the overall business success.
Yeah.
And, we've mentioned this, and you mentioned this on your podcast previously, like, it's more than just compensation.
Yep.
That feeling significant.
Yep.
And feeling empowered to be a leader.
Yep.
And feeling empowered to make decisions that
Yep.
are impacting
Yep.
this business is so important. And so by creating this vision, this clear alignment
Mm-hmm.
of where the company is going and how we plan to get there, it makes it that much more clear,
Sure.
I guess, on how individuals fit into that and how they make good decisions that serve the company well.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. We used to say clarity is king, but I also love that clarity is kind because there's so much truth to that. Now we've talked about the kind of the difference between working with a professional implementer, like yourself, or self-implementing. So self-implementing in this real world experience for you wasn't easy. It did come with challenges. You and I have talked about some of them. One of the things you mentioned was just how time consuming it was. Say a little bit more about that.
Yeah. It was another part-time,
Full-time job. Come on.
maybe full-time
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
to really deep dive into learning EOS.
Yeah.
So the Entrepreneurial Operating System was developed by a gentleman by the name of Gino Wickman,
Mm-hmm.
and he took years to cobble this operating system together. And throughout that process, he pulled every lever along the way and tested what order things should be rolled out in. How do we
Sure.
teach this? How do
Yeah.
we implement this? And so the process of implementing EOS is very intentional. And going by self-implementing, and especially if you're a type A person, you want to do it correctly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So taking the time to really learn this system and the order in which to implement it
Yeah.
and what to expect from implementation, what to expect from my team, were all pieces that took time.
Sure.
And in this, as you can imagine, leading a team
Yeah.
of more than 120, not knowing what the heck I was doing, I was working 70 to 80 hours a week already,
Sure.
7 days a
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
So, and that's an experience or something that many entrepreneurs share.
Yeah.
So the idea of taking on this secondary job or this second full-time job to learn EOS to implement it purely in your business, that's a huge
It's a lot.
commitment.
Yeah.
And it is a lot.
Yeah. I can imagine just the value of having an implementer is when you came across something, or when a business owner comes across something, for them to have someone that says, hey, it's okay, other people feel this exact same tension, or hey, you guys are on the right track, or would you consider some of these alternatives or these ideas, just to help guide that conversation, so that you're not sitting there like, all right, well, I hope that this is what they meant and I hope it works,
Yes.
type of thing. So, and I think, there's different levels of engagement that you're going to get, not just from a senior leader or an owner of a business that's going to try to take this on, but the way that it affects their team and the teams below them and the entire organization. Let's kind of start to pivot to why, like, you were on track to take over this family business, but instead you decided to make a pivot and do this as your career. Why was that so impactful for you, and why did you choose to do it?
Yeah. So leaving the family business was a difficult decision, but ultimately, as is in most family businesses, there are a lot of dynamics at play.
Yeah, of course.
Along the way, some promises were broken, and so ultimately, I said, "Thank you so much. I am so grateful for every opportunity, but I'm leaving."
Yeah.
And I did, and I took a soft landing for a minute, and then just really reflected on how impactful implementing EOS was
Yeah.
in the business,
Yeah.
and not just for myself. I mean, there were some selfish reasons, right? I went from 70 to 80 hours a week to 50 to 60 hours a week, which really felt like a part-time job at
Sure.
that point
Yeah.
for me. But the most impactful was seeing the change in managers and those managers who had then learned management and leadership skills and had more confidence in their ability to lead others
Yeah.
well. And then I have a super soft spot and love for those frontline hourly employees,
Sure.
and creating jobs of significance for them. And seeing those individuals come back to me and make comments of, I have a better relationship with my child, or I
Wow.
have skills that now help me have clearer conversations with my spouse. And, now I've set up this plan on how I'm going to save for a vacation, this dream vacation 3 years from now, because of the skills I learned through working at a company that was operating on EOS.
Wow.
So for me, when I left, I took that soft landing and then said, EOS is so transformational, and I'm excited to share that with other entrepreneurs and their leadership teams so that they can experience this same transformation.
Yeah. I mean, that is enough compelling why to go and do it. You've experienced it, and now you want to share that with somebody else. And also, what a cool place to be in, that you get to see the result of the impact you had, and just enjoy that. That's something that not a lot of people get to have. It's special. People relish that moment that somebody comes to them and says, "Hey, I just want you to know you had a profound impact on this, and this." That is incredibly special. And now you don't just play that part in one organization's story with their own legacies and their own families, but you get to help businesses all over the place that want that same thing for their companies, and you get to be a part of that journey,
Hmm.
which is awesome. So when it comes to EOS, actually, before I do this, let me ask you this question. So our mission on the podcast is to help young professionals maximize their influence and impact, which is something you did by implementing EOS and providing clarity, um, which is great. Young professionals don't always get to say like, "Hey, I'm only looking for companies that run on EOS to go and work for, where I'm probably going to get some of this awesome benefit." So what would some encouragement be that you might have for just younger professionals that are like, okay, well, like, how does this stuff, we've got the resources sitting here, how does that relate to me? Like, is there something for them in as just they grow in their journeys?
Yeah, I think a couple things I'll touch on simply for any young professional that's stepping into a role where maybe they're starting to manage people
Hmm.
and they haven't had to manage people. You
Hmm.
worked alongside people, but now you're in this management position.
Yep.
There's a great book called How to Be a Great Boss
Oh,
that's in
awesome.
the Traction
Yep.
Library.
Yep.
So that's a great resource if you just have kind of those lifelong learners out there
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
want to add skills and tools to their tool belt, if
Yep.
you will. The other one would be get crystal clear on what's important to you. So get
Mm,
crystal clear on your core values, your
it's good.
personal core values, right?
Yeah.
Companies can have core values, but what do you individually value?
Yeah.
And what's the vision you have for your life?
Hmm.
Because I think it's so easy as a young professional to get caught up in this idea of there's one path to success or there's one right or wrong
Sure.
answer or,
Sure.
I'm at this crossroad and if I choose this, it's going to be right. And if I choose right, it's going to be wrong. And you're like, there's not,
Yeah.
right? There's not. And,
Hmm.
and as we mature, we realize that there are just so many paths to success.
Hmm.
And first, you have to define what success is.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's my
I
one
love
piece of
that.
advice.
Yeah.
Get really, really clear on what your core values are
Hmm.
and what the vision for your life is and what success looks like for you. And then when you're at one of those crossroads, filter your decision through those core
It's
values
great.
and that core focus
That's great. That's awesome.
to
Yeah.
help you make the decision that's best suited for you and not to meet others' expectations.
Yeah. That's great feedback. I've heard it said, start with the end in mind.
Mm,
My wife and I, help facilitate this experience for graduating seniors at our church. And one of the things we do is this tombstone, experience.
yeah.
And we actually took a group of seniors to a cemetery and had them walk around respectfully to see what families put on the tombstones of their loved ones.
Hmm.
And the whole idea was, if you could summarize your life and your impact and what you do by one statement that goes on a tombstone, what do you want your life to say?
Hmm.
And just to like go through that experience with them, and the way that we tee it, we don't even tell them what we're doing. We show up at the cemetery. They're kind of looking around like, what on earth is happening? I give this whole speech before we like walk around the corner of the cemetery, like, hey, you got to be very serious. You got to be quiet. This is a no talking experience. And they're all kind of looking at me like, what are we doing? And then we go around the corner and they kind of see where we're landing and they're like, oh, this is really serious. And just
Hmm.
to watch them kind of go and process and write, take journals and just make notes. One of the things that they came back with were seeing statements that weren't necessarily aligned to age. Like it might be said about a young person, but could also be said about an old person.
Hmm.
And it also helped to bring clarity to the value of how short life is, that we're
Hmm.
not promised 85, 90
Hmm.
years. And so it was such a transformational experience that we got to watch these young people go through. And I think that's great advice of what you gave, because it reminded me of that, in that getting crystal clear about what you believe and what your core values are and who you are helps you to filter how you make decisions in the future.
Hmm.
So that's just powerful. I really, really like that. When it comes to EOS, who's an ideal candidate? So if there's someone that's listening to this or just happened to stumble across this YouTube video, what would a business look like that's ready to implement EOS?
Yeah. So kind of the black and white answer on it. Typically, a company I work with has between 10 and 250 employees.
Okay.
EOS is industry agnostic. It works in any industry, so that's not super important. What is really important is that they are open-minded and growth-oriented.
Ready, willing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Because really is about learning new skills and thinking differently. And so a lot of companies that EOS implementers work with are founders or family businesses, and they were passionate about the product or service that they built their business around.
Yep.
And then they reached a certain point. They grew this business. They reached a certain point, and then all of a sudden went, oh, crap. Right? Like, what now?
What do we do?
This is a real business with real challenges and real opportunities.
Yeah.
How do I organize all these moving parts? And so in that space, they're going to have to think differently than they have thought before in order to achieve something new. What they've never achieved. Right?
Yep.
What got you here won't get you there.
Yeah. That's great.
And then the other side, just kind of pulling back to vision, traction, healthy. So when EOS implementers work with an EOS implementer, when companies work with an EOS implementer, then the implementer is coming in to make the owners and the leadership team better at three things. And it's vision. So getting everyone aligned around where this company is going and how they plan to get there. Traction, which is instilling discipline and accountability into the organization. So everywhere you go, you see people executing on your vision day in and day out. And then helping teams become more healthy. And by that, those are those soft skills sometimes, or that cultural piece. Right? How do we create a cohesive, open and honest, vulnerable team that also enjoys working with each other? Because so often that doesn't exist necessarily.
I mean, you spend more of your waking time with your coworkers than you do with your own family.
Yes.
And so it's important to be in an environment that's healthy. And so you're not doing what you did before EOS, which was 70, 80, 90-hour work weeks on a consistent basis, because that leads to burnout, and that's not sustainable for the long haul.
It's not. And it's not sustainable for any entrepreneur. But so many entrepreneurs, again, high achievers, kind of bound and determined, maybe a little stubborn, are willing to put in that work. But at the end of the day, if you're working that many hours, it does lead to burnout, and you're not going to be a great leader or a manager. And there's so many opportunities that are being missed for your business and your team.
No, it makes total sense. So let's talk just a little bit like specific tactical, like if there's a business that's like, hey, Jacqueline, I really want to work with you. Let's implement EOS. What does it look like? Like, give me just kind of a broad stroke of the engagement, what that looks like.
So EOS has a proven process, and creating a proven process for our clients is also a thing we do. So a proven process just being a one-page illustration of how we go from kind of starting a conversation with a prospect through transitioning them into a happy long-term client. Right? And so for us, that starts with a conversation. Right? Just, we are very much any EOS implementer and the whole EOS community. I wasn't sure this was for real, but it really is as awesome as everyone says it is. And it is a help-first organization. So you can reach out to any EOS implementer to learn more about the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Or Jacqueline.
Or, I mean, we're biased, but and typically, if you feel like you're a good fit or you want to learn more, and you want your leadership team to maybe learn more about it, we will start with a complimentary 90-minute meeting.
Wow.
Which is just some time. It's 90 minutes. Sit down. Let me share a little bit about EOS and myself. I want to learn a little bit about you and your business and where you've been, where you are, and where you want to go. And then let me open my fire hose and share with you all the tools that EOS has and how we go about implementing EOS in a business. And if it sounds like something that's a good fit here, let's talk about next steps.
Let's do it. Yeah. So I love that that complimentary 90 minutes. That's no obligation.
No,
And
absolutely
so
not.
if an executive is sitting there going, well, we need to test it first, or let's just see if it's really what we want to do before we really go all in, people have that opportunity with you.
Yes.
And so that oftentimes is what sets off those light bulbs that helps get not just buy-in from the senior leadership, but also the management team that might be involved in that initial 90-minute opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, that could help set the trajectory for a longer term engagement. So, I mean, how long does it take to implement EOS? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Like, what should people expect when it comes to, okay, we've done the 90, we're in, we sign on the dotted line. Jacqueline, let's get going.
Yeah. So there's 3 days within the first 60 days. You
Mm-hmm.
have 3 full day sessions
Mhm.
spaced out. And after those 60 days, you will have a clear, what we call a vision traction organizer.
Wow.
So core values are defined, core focus is defined, your 10-year target is defined, and then down to what needs to happen in the next 90 days to move our business forward towards that 10-year target.
Awesome.
So also very tangible, right?
Yeah.
Tactical
Yeah.
information.
Why 10-year? What is the value there?
Yeah, 10 years can be anything from 5 to 30 years. It
Sure.
doesn't have to be exactly 10.
Yeah.
But that 10-year target is like a lighthouse,
Yeah.
right? It's like this, here's this direction we're going, and it keeps us focused on the future and what we ultimately desire from this company. And then we break that down.
Yeah.
So we'll break down that 10-year target into a 3-year picture, right? If that 10-year target's going to come to fruition, what needs to be true in 3 years? And if that 3-year picture is going to be true, what needs to be true in the next
So good.
1 year?
Start with the end in mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly what you mentioned.
That's great. So, I want to kind of go back to your younger self for a minute as we wrap up here. If you could give your younger self advice, just in general, like it doesn't have to be like entrepreneur advice or specific to one thing or EOS, but if you could just go back in time and give yourself some advice, what would you say to young Jacqueline?
Yeah, I think I didn't share a ton about this, which maybe is a perfect place to lead to.
Sure.
So I would tell my younger self to be more vulnerable, to be more open with those trusted individuals around me.
Yeah.
There is so much power in doing life in community with others. And being young and at 26, a GM of a private high-end country club in a male-dominated industry where most people around me didn't look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I didn't have the skills necessary to do that job well. I had to put up this front and kind of wear this coat, or I didn't have to. I felt like I had to
Sure.
put up this front and protect my image and put on this coat of confidence every day. And even though I went to work for 8 years and had no idea what the heck I was doing every day, right, I didn't show up that way. I showed up with confidence.
With a mask, maybe.
With a mask.
Yeah.
And I feel like I could have learned so much if I had stripped that down.
Yeah.
And just been more vulnerable.
It's great.
With those trusted individuals around
Yeah,
me. And
yeah.
to do it, you can do that in a professional way.
Yeah,
Right? That's
yeah,
not
that's great.
showing up to work just
A mess.
yeah,
Yeah,
laying everything on the table.
Yeah.
But you can look others in the eye and say, I don't know the answer to this. What do you think?
Yeah. I'll never forget. I had this experience where I was working on a team, and my manager, I had been going through a really tough season of my life. I think I might have shared this story once before, but it's been years. And there was a day that I woke up and I just felt like I couldn't do my job. Like I just needed a day. And I did not work for an organization that was like, take mental health days if you need it. But I needed it. And so I texted him that morning and I said, dude, I can't do it today. I need to just unplug. And he immediately responded, do what you got to do. I got you covered. We'll figure it out later. And so I even said, like, do I need do you want me to submit it as a sick day, as a PTO day, or you know what? He's like, don't even worry about it. And that like exhale of freedom to just like get my mentals right for a minute, but then also like the fact that there was a space where I was able to be that vulnerable, I'll never forget it. And I don't ever want somebody to feel like they can't express that type of vulnerability to me as they work with me. And so I think that's such good advice that you would have given your younger self. I think that's applicable advice for all of us. There's value in showing up fully how you are versus putting on a mask and acting like you got it all together. That presents a false sense of security, not just for you, but for others. And it's okay to not be okay sometimes. So I think that's brilliant. When it comes to getting in contact with you and being able to work with you, what's the best next step for someone? If there's a business leader or owner that is listening to this going, all right, I've heard some of your story. I connect with you. There's definitely some common ground here. I want to have that 90-minute complimentary conversation. How do they engage?
Yeah. So a few ways. EOSworldwide.com is EOS's website.
Yep.
And there's a directory on there where you can find implementers in your area, and you can find me. So you can search Jacqueline Jensen and find me there. I'm also on LinkedIn. So that's another great place. Reach out, shoot me a message, or email me. It's jacqueline.jensen@eosworldwide.com.
Easy.
And if you're just interested in learning more about EOS and kind of testing the waters, any of these books are great. So Traction is where I started. But What the Heck is EOS is kind of so Traction's more of like a textbook.
Yeah.
You know, it's very tactical.
100%.
And What the Heck is EOS, I kind of equate to, it's almost like a picture book, if you will. You know, it simplifies it, breaks it down, gives you just the basics. It's not going to deep dive into the how.
Yeah. These are my copies because I've gotten them. They're on Audible. I've actually worked with an organization that runs on EOS. I've seen the profound impact of small business that's choosing to put in practices that help them scale and take care of their people better and have that vision, traction, and healthy. And so I'm a huge fan of this, but I'm also a huge fan of you. I appreciate your willingness to share, to be vulnerable, and to kind of walk through your journey, because it's not a typical consultant's journey in that you got to be on the receiving end of the content as a self-implementer, and now you go and professionally help other companies implement for them. So I think it's awesome. Any closing thoughts that you'd like to share before we wrap this up?
I think I'll kind of circle back to the beginning, Adam, where, you know, you and I are in community with each other. So just maybe another nugget takeaway for those leaders, young leaders out there. Get involved in your community.
It's great.
Whether that's church or sports teams, or community organizations or volunteer opportunities. You know, find your people in community, and then be really generous with your time, your love, and your wisdom.
Yeah.
Because it will circle back. It will give back tenfold.
That's great. Jacqueline, thank you again so much for coming on the podcast, for being in my corner and helping me at the Synergetic Culture Company, but then just also being a great friend. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You're amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Synergetic Culture. I want to thank our sponsors, Wingman Payments and the O Agency, for what they do to help support this vision so that we can continue to bring you amazing content that hopefully helps you build a synergetic culture. So we will be back soon with another video episode coming out shortly. So stay tuned. God bless, and we'll see you guys soon.